All right, I'm going to do second part of lesson 3-7. I'm going to read the problem now. Sarah earns $48 a week babysitting. She has saved all her money for the past 6 weeks. So what we need to do for this problem is we need to multiply, since they use the word weeks. And that means right here there's a word called a week, which we've talked about it being each week. And that, of course, means you multiply. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to set it up. We're going to say $48 times 6 because of the 6 weeks. Now, the number that we are going to round is the 48. Now, what is the highest place here? Remember, not the highest number, the highest place. Now, this 8 is in the ones and the 4 is in the tens. So out of the two places, which one is the highest? Yes, the tens is the highest. Now, I underlined step 1. Step 2, circle the neighbor to the right. Now, what kind of neighbor is that 8? 5 or more or 4 or less? 5 or more. So what we do when it's 5 or more is we add 1 more to the place that we are rounding to, which is the tens. 1 plus 4 equals 5. Now, everything to the right of that number that you are rounding changes into a 0. So the 8 changes into a 0. $48 rounded up to $50. Okay? Now, once you have that, now you can multiply it times the 6. Now, I've taught you all how to trail the 0. So all you have to worry about is 5 times 6, which is 30. So about how much money has she saved in the last 6 weeks? About $300. Okay? Now we are going to turn to page 201. There were some problems in this page that also asked you to estimate. I'm going to go ahead and work it on this paper, but I highly suggest you all use sheets of paper so that your numbers are bigger and you have more room to do your notes. Now, the first problem is 6 times 125. What number are we going to estimate first? Yes, the 125. Now, what is the highest place? Now, I want to remind you all that the first digit on this side is going to be your ones, then your tens, then your hundreds, and then your thousands. Now, it keeps going, but I just wanted to remind you all, when I say place, this is what I mean. From the beginning of the year, we talked about place values. Now, out of the 125, what is the highest place? The 1. It's in the hundreds. Then you circle your neighbor to the right. What kind of digit is the 2? 4 or less. We don't care less. That 1 stays the same. Then everything to the right turns into zeros. The 2 turns into 0. The 5 turns into 0. So 125 rounded to the hundreds place, rounded down to 100. Then you multiply that times the 6. And if you remember to trail your zeros, you have 6 times 1, which is 6. The answer for number 1 is about 600. Number 2 is 2 times 6, 261. Now, what is the highest place? Yes, the 2, which is in the hundreds. Then you circle your neighbor. What kind of digit is the 6? 5 or more. We add 1 more to the hundreds. So that 2 turns into 3, and everything to the right turns into zeros. So 261 rounded up to 300. Now you multiply that 300 times 4. Trail your 2 zeros, and you're left with 4 times 3, which is 12. Your answer is 1,200. Number 3, 538 times 3. Which number are we estimating? 538. What is the highest place in that number? The 5, which is the hundreds. Then you circle your neighbor. What kind of digit is your neighbor? 4 or less. So that means we don't care less for the 5. That stays the same when you don't care less. And everything to the right turns into zeros. 538 rounded down to 500. Now you multiply that times the 3, trail 2 of those zeros, and you're left with 5 times 3, which is 15. The answer for number 3 is 1,500. Number 4, 7 times 314. We're going to round the 314 to the hundredths place. We circle the neighbor. What kind of digit? 4 or less. We don't care less for the hundredths. It stays the same, and everything to the right turns into 0. So 314 rounded down to 300. Now you multiply that times the 7. You will trail 2 zeros, and you're left with 7 times 3, which is 21. Your answer for number 4 is 2,100. We're on number 5 now. 8 times 53. What is the highest place? Tens place. Yes, it's the 5. Then you circle your neighbor to the right. What kind of digit is that neighbor? 4 or less. We don't care less. The 5 stays alone, and everything to the right turns into 0. So 53 rounded down to 50. Now you multiply that times the 8. You trail 1 0, and you're left with 8 times 5, which is 40. Your answer for number 5, 400. Now we're going to multiply 9 times 24. Which number are we estimating? 24. Now what place are we rounding to? The tens. Yes, so we underline the 2, circle the neighbor. What kind of digit is the 4? 4 or less. We don't care less for the tens place. Then everything to the right turns into 0. 24 rounded down to 20. Then we multiply that times the 9, trail 1 0, and you're left with 9 times 2, which is 18. So number 6, the answer was about 180. We're on number 7 now. 2 times 585. What place are we rounding to? Hundredths, the highest place. We circle the neighbor. The neighbor's an 8. What kind of digit is it? 5 or more. We add 1 more. So 5 plus 1 makes 6. And everything to the right turns into zeros. 585 rounded up to 600. Now you multiply that 600 times 2, trail 2 of those zeros, and you're left with 2 times 6, which is 12. The answer for number 7, 1,200. We're at number 8 now, 4 times 18. Which number are we estimating? 18. What place are we rounding to? The tens. You underline the 1, which is in the tens, and you circle the neighbor to the right. What kind of digit is the 8? 5 or more. We add 1 more to the tens. The 1 becomes a 2, and everything to the right turns into 0. 18 rounded up to 20. You multiply that times 4, trail that 0, you're left with 4 times 2, which is 8. The answer to number 8 is 80. Now, I am going to skip number 9 and move on to number 10. They want to know, number sense, to which place should you round to estimate the product of 4 times 1,890? What place do you think we should round to? Correct. The highest place is the thousands. So you are going to copy the number. Then you are going to round to the thousands, which is the highest place. And you circle the neighbor. What kind of digit is the 8? 5 or more? We add 1 more to the thousands. It becomes a 2. Everything to the right turns into zeros. 1,890 rounded up to 2,000. Now you multiply that times the 4. You have 3 zeros to trail. And you have 4 times 2 left, which is 8. The answer for number 10 was about 8,000. All right, so we're on the second part of page 201. We're going to continue reviewing 11 through 17. The assignment that you all had to do in class were these 12 problems. Now, if you missed these problems, if you got a 70 or below, then you will do page 203. There are 15 problems there. Okay? That's the one that's titled HW for homework, but it's not really homework. I'm calling this the makeup. Okay? For those of you that need to make up the 12 problems you did. Now let's review a few more before you're on your own. Number 11, 3 times 287. They wanted you to round the number 287. So when you round it to the hundreds, it's 5 or more, add 1 more. That is going to round to 300. Now 3 times 300 is 900. Number 12, 6 times 131. When you round 131 to the hundreds, it's going to round to just 100. 6 times 100 is 600. Number 3, 602 times 9. We are going to round the 602, and it rounds down to 600. Then you multiply 9 times the 600, trail 2 of those zeros. You have 9 times 6, which is 54. The answer for number 13 is 5,400. Remember, boys and girls, if I'm going too fast, pause the video, try it yourself first, then come check what I did and compare your answer to my answer and see what you did. If you did something incorrect, look at how I did my problem and fix your work. Number 14, 486 times 7. What number do you think we need to estimate? 486 to what place? Hundreds, correct. You will underline and circle the neighbor. That's 5 or more, add 1 more. The 4 becomes a 5. Everything to the right turns into 0. So now 500 times 7, when you trail your 2 zeros, you're left with 5 times 7, 35. The answer for 14 is 3,500. Number 15, 719 times 5. We're going to go ahead and round the 719 to the hundreds. That's 4 or less, don't care less. So the 719 rounds down to 700. When you multiply that times 5, and then you trail your 2 zeros, you have 7 times 5, which is 35. The answer for number 15 is also 3,500. Number 16, 1,240. The highest place is the thousands. We underline and circle. What kind of digit is the circled number? 4 or less, we don't care less. So the 1 stays as it is, and everything to the right turns into 0. So 1,240 rounded down to 1,000. You multiply that times 5, and you get 5,000. Last but not least, 8 times 3,015. What place are we rounding the big number to? The thousands. We underline circle. What kind of digit is that? 4 or less. We don't care less. So that 3 stays as it is, and everything to the right turns into zeros. 3,015 rounded down to 3,000. You multiply that times 8, trail your 3 zeros, and you're left with 8 times 3, 24. The answer for number 17, 24,000. All right, guys. So I reviewed 3-7. I hope you have a better understanding. If you don't, please let me know. Give me a note in my basket, and I can do another small group with you and anybody else who needs it. Thank you.